Yeah.
you have a uniform too. Like you have a kind of like standard way that you present yourself, which
Yeah.
is, really practical and also easy.
Yeah. I
I,
mean,
I, I think I'm too like, oh, I want to be different every day, and it's
yeah.
like a, you know,
But the thing is so I mean, it's not hard to notice. I mean, actually, I think maybe it's easy to notice, but I wear almost the same thing every day. I think we might have talked about this before. I wear almost the same exact outfit every day. And as far as I can, definitely no one comments on it. So I don't know if people notice or not, but it doesn't seem to change anything. So, I mean, I used to be pretty flamboyant. I was like a super like hip hop kid, and my mom used to dress me pretty well as well. Like my mom always talks about like how she would um, dress me before she dressed herself, and if she had, she wasn't particularly wealthy or anything like this, but she would sooner spend money on my clothes as a kid before she would, and this kind of carried on throughout my life or whatever. But then I think the first thing that started changing was I used to have like kind of like more expensive stuff when I was older, and the kind of stuff that like I, I remember maybe the first time I had heard of someone being killed over their sneakers, and and I used to wear like expensive sneakers or whatever. I used to have like Gucci sneakers and everything in the 80s and all that, and I used to wear like jewelry and gold chains and all of this other nonsense or whatever. And what's the saying? Switch to audio only. No, I don't care about no poor connection. Um, so, but there, once that stuff started happening, when people started getting killed over their clothes or whatever, I was just like, I
not
don't
for
want to wear anything that's gonna get me killed or make me have to kill somebody to keep what you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and so that's when I started chilling out on that stuff as like a teenager. And then yeah, and then I started like kind of traveling in different circles, and I'm like outside of the inner city, or outside of my immediate neighborhood type surroundings, and it just didn't feel like I didn't feel in place with this. And this is another thing, like how people perceive you based upon how you dress, and I became uh quite aware of this, and I would know like I have this one coat. It's kind of a military kind of it's not like what do you what do you call these jacket? Do they call them navy somethings or like
Like pea coat, like
yeah,
a, yeah.
it's kind of like a pea coat, but it's a fitted pea coat, so it's like double breasted and it's narrow here,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's a really nice coat, but it's not the kind of coat that I would wear to walk around in the neighborhood that I grew up in.
Okay.
You know what I
What do
mean?
you saying? What was it? What would it have been saying that you were uncomfortable with?
Um, I feel like it would make me too noticeable. I think it's just one of those things that subtly draws attention. And maybe my perception, not to say that it's the right one or not, but like it's for me I feel like it could draw the wrong kind of attention, like in certain environments. And even though it's not anything, I mean, at least at the time, because now as things have changed, um the things that people wear have widened a little bit in different environments. But at that time I thought like, yeah, I look like I feel like someone might try to test me if I'm wearing this coat in certain places, you know?
Hmm.
So so I'm pretty conscious of that kind of, the way that I dress in certain environments. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. No, the what we choose to wear is based on so many factors. There are the obvious ones, which are weather, which are occasion. What are you going to do?
Hmm.
Um, but then there are also these those are very quantitative, but then there are qualitative things that are harder to put your finger on. And that is what you're talking about, this kind of sense of safety.
Hmm.
There's a sense of what might be the appropriate thing for that appropriate place,
Hmm.
and that is rooted in maybe a history, a kind of social um, set of codes that you can only know about through experience or through learning about,
Hmm.
or someone telling you, right?
Yeah.
And then you really only truly come away with a confidence in what you decide to wear after you've had an experience
Yeah.
or you've been in that situation. But I love that Bill Cunningham quote, and he says like fashion is the armor of everyday life.
Mm.
Um, and I would substitute fashion for clothing very
Hmm.
simply because fashion with a capital F,
Hmm.
we think with um, you know, big name brands,
Right.
designers, and a kind of certain elitism.
Mm.
Clothing is what we all need to put on. It's something that kind of unites us all as a daily practice, is deciding what to wear.
Mm.
And then I can see how when we're younger we try out a lot of stuff, and we try a lot of ways to express who we are. And so it's interesting that you say that you dressed a lot more flamboyantly, or that there was a kind of experimentation, maybe freedom, a certain freedom that you were expressing.
Maybe. I mean, but I mean, I was also growing up in hip hop culture or whatever, so like there was kind of a dress code in this way, like to fit in, but but then there was also levels to the things like what you could afford or whatever, and and then obviously some things that if you can afford and someone else can't afford them, then this can create a problem
Yeah.
because someone may want to have it, you know what I mean? And so, but it goes on. It kind of goes both ways because even when I moved to Montreal, did I ever tell you about my evil coat?
No.
No, I have it. I had this coat. It's probably somewhere in here somewhere because like it's like how you have the Ouija board. They say you can't really get rid of a Ouija board.
Oh no.
Yeah, if you throw it away, you'll come back and find it in the attic like 2 years later.
Creepy.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So this coat is, you just don't get rid of it because.
Well, I every time I wear it, I realize like my friends actually had to tell me to get rid of the coat because I had so many stories of things that would happen to me when I had the coat. And it's not like it did. It's not the coat did evil things, but it just like it was. I think like when I moved to Montreal, it was 2004, 2005 or something, but I still had a lot of my 90s era, like late 90s era clothes, right? So it was kind of like, like these basic parka jackets with the fur around the hood. But
Yep.
the thing is it was just so big and bulky and ill-fitting by the standards of like what was happening at the time at least. So I think people maybe thought that I was either homeless or like, because Montreal's a very fashionable city, right? It's especially in the center, and so I noticed whenever I had this coat on, this one I get followed around the store, you
Oh,
know, and
right?
and I don't know because I just feel like maybe this coat made people uncomfortable. I had the coat on. I went to this Asian restaurant or something, and I wanted to buy this soup. This could be totally related, but I'm putting it on the coat, right? Um, and I wanted to buy this soup, and I'm asking the lady, it's like, okay, I see you have three sizes of soup. Can you tell me what's the large size? Because I'm hungry. And she goes like this with a hand. She goes like this small, medium, large. And I was like, ma'am, this isn't telling me anything. Like, can I see the container? Like the container comes in. She was like, no. And and I think this was because of the coat. And now it did have a rip in it. I forgot that part. It has a rip in it, and there was like it was the white. It was black coat, but
Oh,
you could see the white. So it was very prominent.
yeah.
And but I was poor then. I didn't. What you want me to do? You know, and
I You kept it because it was practical, and this is the kind of climate that you can't fool around with, and so it's very possible, like that's again like
yeah,
the perception of people, and it's like, oh, what's going on with that guy, kind
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I think people. I think you're right when you say like it's. I mean, now in this case, I wasn't expressing myself with my clothing, but definitely people were making some assessment of me based upon the coat. You know,
yeah.
and yeah, I think I wore it on the first date. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking.
It must be freezing. It was probably really cold outside.
Yeah, and see, I should have wore the pea coat. I
Yes,
and
yes.
I messed it up. I really messed it up. And this thing, the thing is like the I don't want to. She was related. I found out later she's related to a really wealthy family in Montreal, and so when we met at Dalmay or something, and she we were going to but she was going to pick me up and we were going to drive somewhere. I think my roommate at the time was in the show or whatever, and
Mhm.
so I think my plan was to wear the peacoat, but something happened at the last minute, like, or maybe I spilled something on it, or I don't know what happened, but I put the other coat on, and then I come bouncing down the steps, and I get outside, and she's got like this. I don't know which one is the more expensive one, but I think it was like she had which one's the more expensive, the Range Rover or the Land Rover?
Well, they're both, that sort of probably the Range Rover. I mean, Land Rover, I think, is made by Range Rover, which
Mhm.
is anyway, she had a very high-end SUV.
Yeah, and I'm coming, I'm coming out of my apartment with a big, not nice fitting coat with a big rip on it, and I'm sure she was like, what's happening here? Like, you know what I mean? And I think this was I don't think I ever saw her again. You know,
Yeah,
she's like, I don't hang out with dudes with coats that don't fit well with rips in it. This is what it is. And so yeah, I mean this
totally. Well, I
yeah.
think, and sometimes it's interesting. Like sometimes you want to, clothes have so much of um, a place in one's life, where you totally think about all these things and maybe a little too much. Maybe you're obsessing a little too much about, what will this black coat say as opposed to this black coat? And, that can get a little tedious. And I'm definitely one to do that. Although I really do think it analytically through. And I think I'm pretty fast at it now.
Mhm.
But it sounds like you were just, like you weren't obsessing and you were just, trying to get out the door,
Yes.
but experiences like that do show us that these ways of these kind of quick perceptions have crazy impact, and to undo that after becomes can become really difficult. But in a way, you probably dodged a bullet there because if if the date had gone well and there was actual chemistry and whatnot, I mean, I don't think that the coat would have, if with anyone of substance anyway,
Mhm.
the coat wouldn't have mattered all that much. It might have been, the anecdote that you tell about your first date,
Mhm. Yeah.
and he wore this ridiculous coat. I was like, what is that? It's like the Seinfeld,
Yeah.
where Elaine's boyfriend Putty is wearing this like man fur, and
Uh-huh.
she's like, oh God, I'm walking on the arm of a fool.
Yeah.
So it's real. It's
Yeah.
real stuff.